Hey y'all, new day, new verses. Today is 31 through 32 on the teaching about divorce. Let's dig in. Have you heard the law that says a man can divorce his wife by merely giving her a written notice of divorce? But I say that a man who divorces his wife, unless she has been unfaithful, causes her to commit adultery. And anyone who divorces a woman, or marries a divorced woman, also commits adultery. Sorry, a little tongue-tied. This can be a little bit of a difficult one, especially when trying to take it in 21st century Western society context. It's not how we're supposed to do it. Going back to the original Deuteronomy law, which is 24:1, it gets to the idea that, okay, if you are going to use people as a commodity, specifically women as a commodity, then, and just say, oh, don't like her, I quit. Cool, you've done that once. You don't ever get to do it again. The law says that if I'll just read it to you. Suppose a man marries a woman, but she does not please him. Having discovered something wrong with her, he writes a document of divorce, hands it to her, and sends her away from his house. When she leaves his house, she is free to marry another man. But if a second husband also turns against her, writes a document of divorce, hands it to her, and sends her away, or if he dies, the first husband may not marry her, for she has been defiled. To me, that screams, if you're going to treat her like property, you can't do it ever again. You paid the dowry. You gave the bridal purse. You traded for her. She is now your responsibility. Because again, this is ancient Near Eastern culture, through 5,000-year-old Near Eastern culture, being spoken 2,000-year-old Near Eastern culture, which has been influenced by Hellenism and a great deal of Western, or at least Mediterranean thinking, and then read now in the 21st century as translated by the late 20th. So, we can't really take it for our current day. Read it in context. In the context here of the day, women were property. So, the law here. Okay, if you're going to treat a woman like property and get rid of her, you don't ever get to have her again. Ever. You're not worthy of it. And it says, yes, she has been defiled. Well, that's the way it's going to be perceived by, honestly, those who don't get the idea of being passed around, being used. Now, that's not a gender-specific feeling. It's just a feeling that when you experience it, it sucks. And getting into why, but I say a man who divorces his wife unless she's been unfaithful causes her to commit adultery. Well, yeah. This idea of sleeping with another person's spouse. Well, you got together. You said yes to each other for our culture, our context. You agreed to this. You know what you were getting into. You don't get to bail. Now, we in the West have a very different culture than the Near East, for the fact that communities would take care of things of, abusive husbands and the like. It wouldn't be everybody keeps their head down in the sand. It would be all of the upstanding husbands in the area get together and inform the not-so-well-behaving husband as to his behavior. And vice versa with the women. It was community-driven, not individualistic-driven or individualism-driven. Because of that, it takes a different understanding. For us on the individual, you have made an agreement. If this is an agreement with somebody you truly know you feel that way about, enough to make that choice. Because, to be honest, I think in a lot of ways we trivialize the concept of marriage. Well, it's just, though we're getting together, it's not a covenant agreement. A covenant agreement, that lasts. That is making a commitment to stay, to push through, to work it out. To give your all. Even when you've got nothing to give. Because the other person matters. And you love them. That kind of choice is what we're talking about. From our understanding. But here, you can't treat a person like an object. And I think in a lot of ways that's what marriage can do. Especially in places where, well, I can have sex when I get married. If you're that you need to get to the core of the idea there. Why does it happen? For them, why would I, well, she doesn't please me in this way or that way or that. In many ways, although the ancient peoples were as shallow, because of the community-driven nature, they did not succumb to the same issues we have. Different ones. But enough that, to me, trying to take this and copy it over the idea of marriage and divorce, I would say no. Now, if you are in a covenant marriage, you understand what that means. And you have chosen that person before the eyes of God, saying, I want this person. If that kind of covenant marriage is what you have, then, yeah, that circles right back to Old Testament law. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Because you're another person's spouse at that point. Well, that's kind of the only way you could apply Western ideas to it. It would be a covenant marriage. Because for there, it was a covenant agreement. If you agree to be with somebody, do it. If you're not willing to, don't. Kind of leads right into tomorrow's teaching on vows for verses 33 through 37. I'll see you guys then. May His favor be upon you. And remember, you are loved. And you're going to make it. Well, God willing.